It always comes to this. Morning guys, here to do another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I'd had this piece in here done again, and the color on my elbow put in again. Parts of this are healed, parts of this are not. The drier parts of my arms always take a little bit longer to peel. Hoping for a good result. Won't be too surprised if the elbow still has that yellow shine. I won't be surprised at all, really. It comes back, you know, from the dead, seemingly. But it can be done. It's just, I think it's just a matter of, you know, putting the work in. With that said, obviously, I have to cut to the chase. I had another appointment with Terry, and I had mentioned that I was looking forward to this appointment, and it should be obvious why. I've mentioned before that, you know, whenever I get anything new to my face, it's like, it's a different kind of tattoo. It changes your life experience pretty well always. Like, the way you interact with yourself in, say, every setting is different, until you get used to it anyway. But this time, I should say, before I go into more of the technical details and all that jazz, I didn't have any sudden adverse reaction to this. There was no, like, even the last time I extended my forehead, I had a bit of like a gut punch reaction where it's like, is that me now? Like, ooh, that seems aggressive. But like this time, even though it's a lot more substantial, it's clearly a lot bigger. It's taking up more of my face. It's more directly changing the shape of my face. I feel like this is more or less how it should have been all along, and it kind of goes and lines up with my chin like I kind of always wanted it to. It was always like, originally it was done very reserved, and then it was brought down slightly more, and it was a little more aggressive, but I didn't really love the finish that we had last time. And last time there was a bit of experimental stuff going on too, where I just kind of wanted to see, like, I was just dipping my toe into the red velvet back at the tail end of 2022, like the red velvet over black. And I wanted to see what red velvet over negative space looked like, to see if it was in any way similar. And I actually like the color less over negative space than I do over black. Like, truth be told, I think it's just kind of like a, I don't know, it's like a dull red. Which is exactly what it is over black, really, like realistically, like, and it's part of why I use so much of it, because I don't really want the background of my tattoos to be like the punchiest, most vibrant part of them. And then I was always trying to communicate to people that, you know, you can get brighter reds over black too. We specifically wanted the darker red over black for the background, but like, people will never actually listen to that. They just assume that that's a cop-out, and that this is as red as it can get because it's over black, and all these, like, whatever software someone's running coming into a conversation, it's almost impossible to change that. Like, they'll come in with the idea that you have the dark color because it's over black, and that's the end of it. Like, you can't, any other information from then on is almost imperceivable to them, has been my experience. And so then when you show them the brighter color over black, like, the assumption is not that it's over black, it's that it was over negative space that you had in reserve. Like this moon that's still shining bright, the same as it ever was. The ongoing idea is that was done over negative space, and I had somehow cut out that chunk of my hand and saved it for the time that I would one day choose to put a white on black, or a moon in there that was not white on black. It's negative space. There are some logical loopholes that people will jump through to sustain their belief systems. It's a strange thing to interact with. but I have this every single day. This is sort of my waking reality in the tattoo community. Is like, oh yeah, of course I was saving that chunk of space the whole time. So anyway, I wanted my forehead to have more of an ornamental sort of finish to it, but I also wanted it to be a little more aggressive. The intention is never, by the way, to look more aggressive necessarily. It's just like, for me, it's more about symmetry and balance. And like, I had someone who was like, you have a friendly face, you're never gonna look mean. It's like, why do face tattoos have to be mean? Why is that the thing? Why can't it just be that you like the way they look, or you want to alter your face in some way, like a woman would putting on makeup, or even you can change the shape of your face with haircuts, and it's more or less that. Or the same reason why I work out daily, because I want to sculpt my body. It's not because I want to look intimidating. I think the only people who are trying to look intimidating through those things, they're not very confident in themselves. And so most people who would assume that that's the reason others are doing it, I think that's a projection of them being unconfident or not confident enough in themselves. And so they would assume that any attempt to better oneself in a direction of any kind is some insecurity that they're masking. When you're confident and enjoying what you're doing, it doesn't have to be menacing or aggressive or some assertion of dominance. It's just, this is what you like. It's very clear that I like getting tattooed. There was at some point, like, there's some video or some fucking comment or something I've made at some point that people who pay half a mind of attention to things continually will reference. And like, I don't know where this was, but at some point I said, and this is a direct quote, and I've repeated this over and over again so as not to be confused, I don't want a full face tattoo. I don't. I have no interest in a full face tattoo. If I wanted a full face tattoo, I would have done so 10 years ago. That's what I've been parroting. That's been my stance on full face tattoo and face tattoos altogether. For some reason, I'm continually paraphrased, and people are changing that into, you said you were done with face tattoos. I've never once said that. I would never say I am done with any kind of tattoo. And the idea of being done with any kind of tattoo, I've said before, and I'll say again, makes me a little bit sad at heart. I don't really want the experience to stop because I love and enjoy it. With that said, I've said also things like in my recent conversation with Lily Lou that went up. I'll talk more about that in a minute. I would love to know what a nose tattoo feels like. I immediately after said, I don't want a nose tattoo. But I do enjoy knowing what these things feel like, and it's nice to be able to know, the experiential part of it. I don't really want to live with a nose tattoo, so I haven't done it. But like, that's the only reason. Like, I would do it just to know what it feels like, but I don't want to live with the reality of having a nose tattoo. And that's just a metaphor, really. That's the rest of my face that we're talking about. The nose just happens to be in the center of it. It's the same reason why I don't have tattooed lips and things like this. I would rather know what those feel like than I would have them for the aesthetic. And a lot of times that does matter more to me. It's just that my face is something that I would rather decorate than completely cover over. I don't dislike my face. I don't think that you have to do that either. It's just that in my case, it's one of those, I'm wearing the tattoos aren't wearing me. So much as some troll out there will say, what do you mean, Remy? They're your entire identity. Less and less so, I built a platform over my tattoos and my piercings for sure. But as time goes on, I'm more and more distant from these things. I'm barely replying to any of my comments these days. And when I do try to respond to one on, say, my Instagram, I'm almost always comment banned for some reason. Like, I woke up this morning, I tried to answer one of the 35, 40 comments I got, and I had a comment ban. and I have no idea why. I didn't comment. I think I made 3 comments yesterday. I never comment on anyone else's stuff, ever. Like, I just do likes and saves and whatever on the things that I enjoy. But currently, and yesterday was the same thing. Woke up, comment, like I'm just always casually under some sort of restriction. It's a little bit like some kind of like high-level gaslighting or something, where it's like they took away one of my accounts a long time ago, and I have been unable to breach my audience through the Explore page. I have been, my access to the greater ocean has been greatly hampered since then, which is fine. I'm still just plugging along. I think my Instagram is back in December currently, believe it or not. Like, these vlogs come up about 5-6 weeks after where I am. So, for example, we're in, April right now. This will be coming up in, I don't know, June, May, somewhere in there. Anyway, yeah, I lost my train of thought. The point is, my Instagram is way farther behind than my YouTube, and I barely interact with it. And when I do, I get that. It's the same. It's been the same experience since my TikTok has gone down. It's been, it's almost impossible to reach the broader ocean, and my videos will debut to say 10 views at times, and it's like, if I was doing all of this for attention and reaction, those numbers would be making me sad. But realistically, I was doing this before I had the high views, and I would be anyway. So, for example, if I stop making these vlogs, you shouldn't assume that I'm not getting tattooed anymore, and that I will never get another face tattoo again, for example. I have to put it out there clear in one soundbite that I've never said I would not tattoo my face again. I've never said that. Don't put those words in my mouth. I never said that, ever. I didn't say that after the bats. I didn't say that after the ears. I've never said it. You can't find it. You could spend your entire day trying to find that too. And I don't know why you would care to, but some people seem really concerned with it. I've never said it. I'm not saying it now. I will be doing another pass on here, because the way this was done is there was red up here, if you recall. Some of it we blacked out, and other parts we went over with smoke silver opaque. And some of that opaque on color, it's hard to tell if it's saturated, because when you're working on a forehead, the skin is very thin. It's like very prone to bleeding and burst blood vessels and bruising and stuff like this. So some of what's coloring it currently is probably burst blood vessels, but I imagine that will tame down with time, and then you'll see what color's actually there. But it wouldn't be hard to imagine needing another pass. These roses on my head here, for example, were bright red, and they've been gone over with opaques and whites about 4 times, and now they look almost black and gray. So built into this was Panthera black, and believe it or not, we actually lined around the smoke silver points so that they would be the black around them would be sharp enough to keep them like popping out when this dulls down. It wasn't just fill with black and then fill the negative with opaque. It was line around the negative, then fill with opaque, because as we know, when you line things, you create borders. It's a darker, sharper black than it would be with a mag. And that makes the contrast between the smoke silver and the black just a little more obvious to the eye. And I wanted this to be mostly black with just enough in there to break it up. For the people thinking, oh, that looks like a cover-up, it's like, this actually wouldn't make a great cover-up method, because there's too much broken up in it pretty well everywhere, all through it. There isn't really a solid area of black to hide a full tattoo. With that said, we're long past that point anyway, whereas I would still think that we could cover it this way because we used opaques, and I actually think that opaques are better for covering things than blacks are, even sometimes, if you're fluent with them. With that said, while Terry was up there and working in this area, we did the leaves again, because they would have looked a little bit out of line with the rest. They were also a little bit blobbier than either of us wanted them, and he actually changed the way that they're shaded. They're more of a solid fill with opaque now than they were, and we went with darker lines instead of dark and light lines in places. I think it'll just make for a cleaner tattoo long run. These were actually bats at one point. For the people who were mad at my eyelid tattoos, I had them on my forehead at one point, and they were way more noticeable then. And I liked the bats, they just didn't really flow well with everything, and they were kind of like an afterthought at that point. I was just trying to fill in the awkward spaces, and it was the best idea I had at the time. But as we know, tattoos are not permanent unless you want them to be. So I've changed those bats, and I think now the leaves have been done 3 times, I think. This is Lee did them, then Terry did them 2022, and then we just did them again. And I think this is the best they've looked, and they frame off everything very well. I don't have any immediate plans to work on my face again. That doesn't mean that won't change. There are always thoughts in my mind, but it's better taken gradually for me. You know, I don't ever envision really having a full face tattoo, as I've said a million times, and I'll reiterate again. If that ever were to happen, it would be a long, long time from now, but I don't see it, and I think I'm getting closer to the end of this version of my body mod thing anyway. I've got my back piece coming up with Terry. I would like to get that done with him before he leaves. Who knows? We don't have people forever in life. And then I would probably just like to maintain the suit that I've got, like my upper body. I need to redo the tentacles on my torso, of course, and obviously the sleeve is still in motion. But from there, like when I get those things done, it is going to be a bit of a tapering down. A lot because I want to start weaning myself off. Also, I have some other things I would like to be doing with all the extra money I've been given to this. It hasn't taken away from any of my professional or personal life that I get tattooed, but because I have that overflow, I would like to start putting it into some different directions in life when I get a little closer here. And just reap the benefits of being mostly done. And that probably will sound insane to people, but I do envision a point where I'm mostly done. My legs are gonna be done over a period of a long time, and I think that's gonna be all just like almost instructional purposes for newer artists to learn this craft of tattooing over black. Like my wife and a few of the other apprentices at the shop are all gonna tattoo my legs. They're not going to be giant leg sleeves. I don't have plans for that. I don't really care. I've done more sleeves than anyone that's ever lived, probably. You know, like it's that the appeal of doing some one-offs is high for me. Like I really enjoy just doing this one tattoo, and it makes a big difference. That will be more where my mind is at going forward once the torso is mostly wrapped up in its current form. So anyway, bit of a ranty one this morning. I'll talk to you guys again in a few days when I have another session with Rick. And yeah, have a great day.